I can't even believe it's been 4 months since the last tutorial I uploaded. So I want to take this opportunity to catch you up on some of the big changes that I've been making in the meantime in my business. And the first change that I've been working on is I have migrated my site from 7.0 to Squarespace 7.1. So my site is exactly the same as it was on 7.0. And it's the same design that I had built out in 2018 when I first started my business. So it's just in desperate need of a redesign. And I just don't think this current design does a very good job at marketing what I do. And so one of the goals of this redesign is to bring it more into like the modern era, essentially, just make it look more professional. And so you can see the design is still very similar, but I do a much better job at marketing my business. And so one thing that I'm adding is workshops. And so I have this whole section on the workshops, and they're like 1 hour intensive tutorials where we dive into something specific. And then I have my courses, and then I have my plugins. And on the current website, I don't even have my plugins listed on the homepage. And this is like a very important part of my business. And my plugins, I think I have some really cool ones that really add awesome functionality to Squarespace. So I definitely wanted to highlight that on the new redesign. And I have GIFs here showing off what each plugin does. So I have my blog posts. Of course, that's a very important part of my business is teaching. And then I have my free CSS training. So you can see in terms of like the design and layout, it's fairly similar. It still pays homage to, where I started from, but it just kind of makes it more professional. There's just been a large overhaul of my site that's taken place, spurred on by this migration from 7.0 to 7.1. So in addition to redesigning all of my current pages, I'm sort of restructuring everything in my business. So currently I sell my plugins on Squarespace and I sell my courses on Thinkific. But now that Squarespace has this new courses collection, that's the reason that I migrated from 7.0 to 7.1, so I can now bring my courses under the roof of my website and sell my plugins and my courses all in the same place. So that has been a whole process too, is migrating everyone that currently has a course in Thinkific over to Squarespace and then overhauling those courses. So when I first created my custom layouts course, for example, it was built for 7.0 and it taught you how to do CSS to change 7.0 and do all these different cool layouts. And then Squarespace changed from 7.0 to 7.1. And so I kind of redid the course for 7.1, but that was using the classic editor. And then Squarespace 7.1 came out with Fluid Engine. And so now I've completely overhauled the whole course, and it now focuses on how to do these different custom layouts inside of Fluid Engine. So rather than being a CSS focused course like it was when it first was created, with Fluid Engine, I've kind of tweaked it a little bit, and now it's more of like a Fluid Engine course. So, that's been a whole process, overhauling that course and building it out inside of Squarespace. And then I have my other course, which is actually more of like a CSS snippet library called CSS Toolbox. And so that was on Thinkific, but it was really difficult for people to kind of navigate and see what each snippet was. And so I've moved it into Squarespace, and it's now using this blog collection. So it's very easy to filter by different categories. If I want to, do something with the header, then I can just click the header. There's a search option that works really well for filtering. And you can see a preview of what each thing does. So it just makes my CSS Toolbox library so much easier to use, which I'm really excited about. So that was a great reason to move it from Thinkific into Squarespace. But of course, that's been a whole process as well. So I mentioned my plugins. I've moved my courses into Squarespace. Now the last component that I'm adding to my business is a membership. So for the last 3 years, I've been helping Kirsten Martin out in her private Squarespace group. So she used to create Squarespace courses, and people had the opportunity to join a private Facebook group. And I served as the person answering technical questions, CSS related or code related questions inside of that group. So it was great because if someone was kind of struggling with something on their site, they could hop in the group tag me in their question, and then I could just jump in and solve it for them. And people just, they raved about how much value they got, not just from me, but just from having a community of Squarespace web designers that were all professionals and working with clients and had similar problems and could get support from each other and from experts as well. And so Kirsten has since pivoted her business and she's not doing that anymore. So we're no longer doing that collaboration with the group. But I felt like people got so much value from it. I wanted to create a pro membership for my site as well and sort of continue that. If people wanted to still be a part of a group, then this is an opportunity for them to join a pro membership group. So starting this membership, people are going to get access to all of my courses, my workshops, and my CSS Toolbox, as well as the access to this private community for Squarespace professionals. And I'm going to be doing monthly Q&As / trainings. I want to bring in other experts into the group to share their knowledge. So I'm really excited about this community, and I'm going to be hosting that community on Circle. And I have two videos coming out later this month, actually, that talk about my process of setting up this community on Circle and how I'm integrating it into Squarespace and how I'm going to be managing it and all of that. So those are sponsored videos, which is super exciting. So I've kind of taken my first step into this larger world of oh my gosh, I can reach out to companies of products that I'm using and ask them if they want to sponsor these videos. And Circle said yes. And I was so stoked because I was already paying for the product. And now they were going to, pay me to make a video about my experience with it, which was super cool. Even more than that, I'm excited to launch this community and see what the response is. Maybe people don't want to pay to be part of this community. So we'll see. It's nerve-wracking. It's exciting. But that's been a huge undertaking as well, trying to build out and launch this private community. And then finally, there's my free CSS course, which is kind of like a lead magnet. If someone watches a tutorial, they can sign up for my Intro to CSS course and learn really the fundamentals of CSS. But that course was built for 7.0. And when it comes to learning CSS, it doesn't really matter what platform or version of Squarespace you're using. CSS is CSS. But I was getting some feedback where people were a little bit confused because they're like, your version of Squarespace doesn't look like mine. And so that was completely understandable. So I've also been overhauling all those free videos to have those videos be done on 7.1. And as part of that, I also want to build that into a much larger, more in-depth CSS for beginners course. So the first, chapter, those first 3 lessons, of course, are still going to be free, and that's going to be part of my lead magnet. But if people want to keep learning more about CSS for Squarespace and really dive in deep, then there'll be this whole CSS for beginners course that then they could sign up to. So I'm in the process of building out that entire course as well on Squarespace. So there's just been a lot of change going on in my business, which is why I have been so busy on top of, still doing all of my client work and everything like that. So all of that to say, tutorials have fallen by the wayside a little bit, but teaching is absolutely something that I love doing, and it's just something that I think I will always do in my business. So more tutorials will be coming, really, really exciting things to come. Thank you so much for watching this video, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.